Hey, it's Megan Conway, and I am here to show you how to do a chicken demo. Norwex classic demo, very important in my opinion to really show how well the cloths work. It's very good at convincing the skeptics that it really can remove all the things that they can't see without some kind of disinfectant spray or wipe. Okay, so it can seem kind of scary, but I promise it's not. I know at my first party I was going, please work, please work, please work, please work. And it's never failed me, I can assure you. And you just need a couple things, and it's a really simple demo that makes a big impact. So the first thing you need is these ProClean test swabs. They're testing for the presence of protein. These are from a company called Hygenia, and we buy them from a restaurant testing supply company. I always make sure to tell my customers, my party guests, that these are not from Norwex, okay? And I want to keep that very clear because I want them to know that, this is a real deal, actual restaurant testing supply. The other thing you need to know about these is they are testing for the presence of protein, and we care about protein because on a scale of microbial size, protein is smaller than bacteria and most viruses. So I always tell people that. So basically I say that protein is bacteria food, and where there is protein, bacteria will soon follow. So if we remove the protein, which is really, really tiny, then we can be confident that it's also removing the bacteria and the viruses as well. Okay, so I also mentioned that this is what a restaurant testing supply or restaurant inspector would take in to test their surfaces for cleanliness, and if it fails this test, it fails for cleanliness. Okay, and then you're going to need a wet EnviroCloth. Ta-da! And I just have it wet, and it's folded in half and in half again, so I have a flat surface to work with. I also make sure to say, to make sure I remain compliant, I make sure that I say our cloths, when used and cared for properly, remove 99% of bacteria. Okay, so that includes a flat surface, making sure it's in contact, etc. Okay, so now I'm going to take my raw chicken. I usually take a package of chicken thighs and I cut them up and I spread them out on a cookie sheet and I freeze them, and then I put them into a container and in my freezer, and I can just grab them out and go, and I put them in some hot water usually or something to thaw them out if I need them in a pinch, and it works great. And I always have chicken on hand. I only have to do that here and there as I run out. Okay, so now you can do it on any surface. I recommend not using a countertop or any kind of thing where there might be like crevices and things. It's best I usually bring a plate, or I love to bring the Norwex cutting board. It's a great way to highlight that product as well. Okay, and then I take my raw chicken, and you don't need a big piece of chicken. A small little piece works just fine. And I just rub it on the board like this. And I usually say, imagine that you're making dinner and you get raw chicken on the board or on your countertop. How would you handle that? And usually they say, I get out a spray or I get out a wipe or something like that. Okay, and I say, well, I am going to show you that you can remove all of that protein with just water. But first, we're going to use our swab. So you just take it out of the little tube, and I rub it around real well in my chicken juice here. Okay, and then I throw it back in the tube, and see the liquid in the top, and I crack the swab back and forth, and I just push it down into the swab. Okay, and that is going purple immediately. Okay, and I always show people that. And I also point out on the swab that green is clean, and you can see the check mark, and then it goes down to purple. No one usually wants to touch the swab since you've been touching the chicken, so I just kind of, show it around the room and just let people know that they can see that it's purple. Okay, now I take my EnviroCloth, and again, I use my flat surface. I often say I folded it into 8 clean surfaces to work with here, and I point out that it saves time because you can just flip through each side. Okay, and then I take my EnviroCloth, and I go down, and I just go. And I also like to say that I go all over the board, and I say that the microfiber grabs anything on the contaminants on the surface and just pulls them up into the cloth. And I'll focus here, and then I just say, and I want to show you that this isn't going to push anything around. And I'm going to swab the whole board just to show you. Okay, now at this point I've already talked at the beginning about the microsilver and the backlock technology. So at this point I say, now guess what? I do not have to throw this in my washing machine. And they're like, what? I just cleaned up raw chicken with this, and as long as I rinse this out really well in my sink, I can hang it up by this tag, and the silver is gonna go to work purifying this cloth. Okay, any silver, any bacteria that's left behind is going to get suffocated by the silver, and in 24 hours when this is dry, this cloth will be safe to use again. Okay, so I always say that, and we rinse it out, and it's ready to go. And so now I am going to take my second swab. So here's this one. Okay, and I'm going to, again, take it out. And at this point, I usually focus here, and I just say I'm going to focus right with the chicken, and now I'm going to go all over the board. And sometimes in the meantime, while I'm doing this, I'll say that there was an article that a lot of hospitals are switching to microfiber mops because they find that they pick up the bacteria instead of spreading it around. So I find that to be a useful thing to say, and that's true. I read that in an article from the EPA. You can Google it, I think. Okay, and you can see. I say, yay, it's green, it's clean. Okay, here, I'm trying to find there. I just did a Facebook party, so I've got some demo jars here. Okay, all right, so, and it's clean. Okay, and that's that. And the other thing I like to do is, just so you're aware, so the swabs are really only meant to, the result is only meant to stay valid for about 10 minutes. So eventually this might start to turn gray. And so what I like to do, just to kind of prevent people from being like, what? I'll usually let it sit there for a second, and then I'll do like a dusting demo or something. And then I just, or even if you're, where you'll forget, just do it at that moment. I will take this out and I'll touch it back to the chicken just to kind of show them that this will turn purple and gray and just act just like this one, just so they can know that you didn't plant this swab, and this one is actually also a legit swab, just as legit as the initial one. Okay, so hopefully that's helpful. Let me know if you have any questions, and go do some chicken demos. It's really fun, and I promise you get the hang of it, and it works every time. Okay, bye.